so a Channel 9 story, OK2A releases a statement.
Yeah.
This is concerning Tim Harper.
Yeah.
So who wants to cover that one, gentlemen?
Well, I'm really good personal friends with Tim, so I'll start out.
Do it.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. Tim, if you're watching this, I don't know that we've ever spoken in real life, but my understanding is very cursory, and I'll be brief, but my understanding is there's a little bit of a question as to if Tim speaks for OK2A in any capacity.
No.
Or if he has before or attempted to. And so there's a bit of a dispute. I don't know what the facts are on the other side, so I really don't have an opinion about it, but certainly unpopular with the media and leftists, his Second Amendment audits, which essentially, you know, they are uncomfortable for many people, but they are his right. And some in the 2A community don't like it, and some like it. Okay. And there's a little
News
bit of
9 is calling him self-proclaimed Second Amendment auditor.
Well, yeah, just like I'm a self-proclaimed citizen journalist.
They're a self-proclaimed media outlet.
But, yeah.
They're self-proclaimed media.
Thank you. I want to give some background on this if we can.
Okay.
So, about a year ago, Tim Harper, on the opening day of the Gathering Place Park here in Tulsa, he was arrested for
domestic terrorism,
legally carrying a firearm.
Okay, that.
And at that time, Don Spencer called him an absolutely, I forget the term he used, but glowing terms about him. This is a model citizen doing his legal constitutional rights. And Don, at that point, was fine with this about a little over a year ago. Now, this is the same guy. Remember we talked about those protests going on in Lawton last summer, maybe last spring, because these detainment facilities from ICE were going to be there. Right. Tim Harper went down there, and another good friend of some of us here, Adrian Otap, went down, and it was those two guys against several hundred leftist organizers. And Tim Harper had about a 15-foot PVC pole with a Trump flag on it. And it was the most amazing. Now, Tim...
Had a gun on his hip.
Yes. And he was open carrying.
How scary was it? 1 to 10.
Legally. Let me say
Here's the Don Spencer quote you were looking for.
Yes.
He called Harper a perfect example of a peaceful citizen exercising Second Amendment rights.
Perfect. Now, so Tim is a very mild-mannered guy. We talked about him a week ago. Last week we talked about him showing up in Representative Lowe's district at a place of worship. Okay, the optics on that, I was troubled by last week. I mentioned that. I said, how would we like it if a couple of hooded young men, you know, of whatever ethnicity showed up in Nichols Hills outside a bridge club in some fancy, you know, uppity neighborhood? You said, we'll find out who's a racist, right? So, you know, the optics on this were difficult. I ran that story, what was it? Saturday night. By Monday, everybody else seemed to pick up on my story. They're like, that's my story. Well, anyway, and they just hounded it, you know. Now, by the time we talked about it, I didn't realize it got taken off of YouTube, got taken off of Facebook, including Adrian Otap's version. Can't get a hold of it. But, again, Don, I talked to Don, well, we texted back and forth on it. He said, look, we've talked to him several times. And like, you can, you know, have a OK2A flag in that, but if you're passing yourself off as you're representing OK2A, then we got a problem. And Don told me, he said, I've had multiple interactions with him and tried to do it quietly and said, look, we do audits when we already have a complaint, because you know Don Spencer himself did that out there at Oktoberfest, right? The River West. Again, he already had a problem, and he was going back again with the law in hand, and trying to educate them, and he's interacting, wants to speak to a law enforcement officer.
Right.
What
Don's doctrine is reactive, like you're saying. If there's a known problem, he goes out there and attempts to address it. Tim's doctrine is it's sort of preemptive.
I think it's broader because Tim, I believe Tim is of the opinion that the problem exists. All we need to do is prick the zit and let it pop.
More
Because
sensationalism.
it's there already. It's under the surface. It's boiling up.
I just want to mention the different philosophies.
Here's
the dominant
yeah.
Oktoberfest.
The complaint is that it seems to be with the motive of attempting to get some shock value, some reaction.
This is like the back fat story.
I mean,
no,
it's almost
well,
like Shane.
I mean,
it's
that's
almost
one.
like-
That's one perspective.
Well, and while I would say it's there and you're pricking the zit, I'm not meaning that means that it makes a reaction and a violent reaction or anything like that. What I'm saying is that people need to be educated. Well, how do you educate people? There are a lot of different ways.
Right.
And the thing is, and one of the best ways would be to go to South Tulsa, a black man with an AR over his shoulder and walk through the neighborhood. That's a fabulous way to get
This
to
reminds me
educate.
of the back fat story where the ladies just took off their top to try to make a point. And what I just called it reaction shaming. I mean, it's literally they went in to purposely get a negative reaction and then say, oh, you had a negative reaction. This is basically what it sounds like to me. This is a preemptive strike to make you react so that we can make a big deal out of it. You're disturbing
on this
the
one,
peace.
no one can make anyone feel a certain way.
When you're
Exactly.
disturbing the
And so
peace,
someone
you can feel
feels
disturbed.
a certain way, it's subjective, and there is no guaranteed constitutional right to any kind of feeling. You don't have the right to feel
Here's
safe.
here's the world that Don Spencer lives in. He is involved in moving the political football, and it's not.
And he's done a good job.
It's not strictly logical, and this is to our consternation.
It's a tactical
Because a lot of us like to deal in logic, and a lot of other people like to deal in feelings. And this is a problem. Now, I'm going to say, supposing Tim Harper's walking up to that storefront church, and instead of a black man standing there, kind of the usher of the church, instead, nobody's there, and as he's coming up, 3 little kids are coming out of Sunday school class. Now, I'm not going to say, well, those kids shouldn't be afraid of a gun. The fact is, they're kids, and they're not responsible for what they've grown up in. But in the black community, guns are a terrifying thing. They just are. Now, and again, I say the black, I'm going to say the urban community. I don't want to say monolithically, because I know a lot of people who are in that, and they say, I'm terrified of guns.
Right. To their detriment, because the more guns, the safer the place is. That's why urban areas are at least safe in the country.
Yeah, living in fear.
But there is a vast difference between what Don Spencer did with the cops at Oktoberfest. He specifically went to them. And what Tim Harper is just walking into restaurants and walking into
In principle, it's
churches.
exactly the same, but I get what you're saying. The feeling's a little bit different.
It's the politics of it, and we've moved the ball quite a bit, and Don wants to protect what we've gotten here.
Right.
Well, it's Don's prerogative to pursue whatever kind of policy he wants to, and it's Tim's prerogative to pursue any kind of rights that he has.
So here's what I'm saying. Don simply said he's not doing this with the bidding of OK2A. We told him, do not say this is OK2A.
Correct.
You never heard Don Spencer saying he's doing something illegal or wishing the cops would arrest him or anything like that.
Yeah.
Correct.
He just said, look, we have our own messaging going on.
Right, and that's fair.
And he's not part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So did we read part of this? Actually, the board delivered and agreed. The board of directors of Oklahoma Second Amendment Association unanimously agreed the following statement: while we support a person's right to keep and bear arms, we acknowledge the right may stop at the discretion of the private property business owner.
Absolutely.
Mr. Harper is not a member of OK2A and has never had any authority to use or represent OK2A at any time. His actions to draw attention to himself while escalating tensions for profit of a social media platform is uncalled for, unwise, and does not hold to the values of the board of directors of OK2A or the majority of Oklahomans. His claim to any such authority with OK2A is false. So clearly they're just clearing their association.
And the only thing I'd like to push back on that is they're sort of proposing, there are ascribing intent
That's right.
to someone and pretending that they have tarot card SJW powers.
They know,
And they've
just
laid
know
them out. And they know that Tim Harper is, from all accounts, I don't know him personally, he's a mild-mannered, meek man.
Yes.
And very principled, and that sounds like, from what I've heard about this man, it's the last thing he'd want to do.
Yeah.
And he just seems to be out there with the same objective as OK2A, just protecting our rights. And you know what? It gets uncomfortable.
Well,
and
that's
I don't think the people that feel uncomfortable are insane. But I would ask them to attempt to step back and examine who has been harmed. Who has been
Correct.
harmed by these actions objectively?
But
No one.
okay, I want to say the gentleman at that storefront church acted admirably. They asserted their rights as private property.
Sure.
They said, "We don't want you here. You know, go back over to the right of way, city right of way street." And they treated him respectfully. He treated them respectfully.
Tim Harper agreed.
Yeah, everything was
So
good.
everybody followed the
I
law.
wish I would have downloaded that video because now it's gone. You know,
Yeah. Down the memory.
Yeah.
So this, to finalize, this kind of explains how OK2A and Mr. Harper can be on the same side of the concept, but have differing views on how to go about it. They say Mr. Harper's continued antics and disregard for private, well, again,
From their perspective.
from their perspective, they are well, to finish the thought here, there is a disregard for private property rights, as well as what they think is a needless escalation of concerns and tensions. That's why they would call them antics. And they say that he's continuing to draw a negative response to the protection of our rights to keep and bear arms.
Yeah.
So that's why. Oh, here's the biggie for Mr. Harper. Mr. Harper's been informed that he has been permanently banned from current and future OK2A membership and the use of its electronic or social media platforms. The big lesson here, folks, is socialism bites on both sides. Everybody thinks you're a member of a group. You think, oh, I'm a member of a group. No, the group picks you. Tim Harper thought he was a member of the Right to Bear Arms group, but the Right to Bear Arms group said, we'll pick you and then no, you're not in our group anymore. Just remember, you don't pick the group you're in, the group picks you.
And that's another statement, his disregard of private property rights. Is there any evidence that Tim has disregarded private property rights?
The concept that
No.
he would disregard the owner of the business.
Well, he didn't.
No,
Certainly
I-
not in that video.
I understand, but
I
I'm just
thought
asking, do we have any scenario in which
There's-
he said, I don't respect your property
Yeah.
rights, I'm staying here with my rifle?
My problem
Does that
was
ever
that
happen?
Coming in would be the
They
disrespect.
better
Yeah.
have evidence.
Knowing that they didn't want him in there and coming in would be the literal
there's
disrespect.
Yeah, there is in this OK2A statement a lot of innuendo towards.
Well,
Tim
unless there's
Harper,
other
that's
things that we don't know about.
Well, that
that
my
have gone
question
on.
is going back to, objectively. I like facts because I'm a simple man. I can't get
Yeah.
into all this psychic stuff and
Yeah.
who thinks this or whatever.
Well,
That's for people
they're
much
into the
beyond
optics.
further denying.
OK2A is clearly
more
looking at the
spiritual than
optics,
yours.
that's all.
Yeah, and when you've got a big organization and you're paying to have people down at the Capitol or whatever paying
Yeah,
for
man, I get it.
effort, listen.
OK2A,
Don-
do
Don's-
OK2A.
Don's worked really hard on
Yeah.
this. But what I want to say is, this goes back to Ferguson, when the Oath Keepers of Missouri said, you know what, these shopkeepers in the urban community of Ferguson, they need to have the means to protect themselves, and they've never had guns, in this urban black community. And so they're advising, counseling on, how to be a gun owner. And you know what happens? Oath Keepers nationally disavowed Oath Keepers of Missouri.
Right.
Because it's black folk that were going to get guns.
I think I would have to debate this last statement of the OK2A's release. They're talking about Tim Harper. Don't let one person be considered the norm for Oklahoma gun owners. Now, that's the end of their statement. We would also like to remind the residents of the state of Oklahoma there are more than 400,000 gun owners that do not carry firearms to draw such negative attention and elevate the concerns of citizens. Don't let one person, i.e. Tim Harper, be considered the norm for Oklahoma gun owners. Actually, I would suggest that maybe Tim Harper is a great example of the norm of gun owners because he's clearly willing to politely exercise his rights. He didn't do anything violent. He went further than these tie-wearing OK2A guys wanted him to go. And they probably do things that he wouldn't do in the way that they conduct their lives.
They're both right in pursuing their own ends and how they feel is the best way to promote and defend the Second Amendment. That's fine. But I will say, and I can't accept, and I have to push back on this cancerous thinking that OK2A seems to be presenting here in the statement, that we are responsible for how others feel. We are never responsible for how others feel, ever. And we can't accept that, because as soon as you accept that can of worms, you just have a complete devaluation of all of our rights.
Okay, but I will say on this, is kind of hearted as a man as Tim Harper is, I would like to see him bring aside some counsel on the order of empathy to start thinking ahead. If I'm walking up to this church on private property and some little kids come up seeing a guy with this big AR-15 strapped on me, what are they going to think?
I would have thought it was cool. I mean,
that's you. That's you.
And Call of Duty makes like $1 billion the first day it comes out. I think kids love it.
And the other thing I would have done, I would have found somebody from the neighborhood who looks like the rest of the neighborhood and say, walk with me.
Yeah.
Let's make this a little bit of a multicultural thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Adam Modisset's doing that. He's got a whole gang in some of these communities that he's in Dell City, Midwest City.
Well,
he goes walking around with a bunch of black guys with rifles.
Right.
No problem.
To your point, David Van, for bringing this up, Spencer called Harper the perfect example of a well-meaning gun owner when he was peacefully exercising his rights, but court records obtained by the Frontier paint a different picture of the man whose expulsion from the park kicked off the upcoming rally. This is from the Frontier about how Harper had been accused by people of making threats toward them with the firearm, attempting to hit them with vehicles, and threatening to cut his stepdaughter's head off with an axe.
Wow.
That's,
doesn't sound like them. I would just like to ask for the proof like anything else.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
just like Kavanaugh and the gang rape
court
parties every week, or what?
No. Yeah, court records. This is assertions from an attempt to get a temporary restraining order.
They're unsubstantiated
according
claims.
to Tim, was never granted.
Well, hold on. We'd have a legal record if they were granted, correct?
No. What happens?
I'm confusing this with a story from October 10th, 2018. So this is in connection to this from a year ago.
Right. When you petition for emergency order protection, if everything's plausible, the judge immediately gives it to you, and then they go serve that person, and they're told in 2 weeks you have a court date, and their constitutional rights are taken away for 2 weeks without having their day in court. Okay?
2 weeks is pretty speedy.
It's what the Democrats did to Mike Workman to keep him from running for party office.
You can use it.
Okay, but when that court date is held, then they find out in earnest, okay, is there anything to this? And you have your constitutional right to confront your accusers. And if the judge says dismissed, then it's never established to have any truth.
Sure.
It's just a filed complaint.
So what happened in the case of Tim?
That's what we're trying to find out here. Tim Harper says anybody can allege anything.
Well, that's
it's
true.
proving
That's
it.
true.
He claims it was never
So
proven.
if they're granted, are they not public record that this restraining order was granted by a judge?
The emergency relief is granted without anybody.
No. We get that. So after the emergency relief is automatically granted and you show up for court in 2 weeks, the results of that court hearing, are they public record?
Tim, from what I've read, he indicated nothing ever stuck.
Well, yeah, my question is, if it did stuck, would it not be public record?
Oh, sure.
The judge said,
Then
I found the evidence to show that you were a dangerous guy.
There would be a further order stating certain number of months.
Right, and that would be public record, yes or no? That's kind of my question.
Yeah.
So, does such a record exist from our intrepid
The
journalists?
Frontier would have had access to it, as much as they've done.
It looks like
a hit job from the Frontier. And yeah, Dylan, I know we're still friends,
So
but I
didn't
disagree with you.
I mean, it's all public record if these claims are substantiated. But when they're unsubstantiated, they're just claims.
It sounds like the big mystery is with Don Spencer. He's the one that had the beginning story and then a spin on the story with the opposite outcome. He used to like Harper, now he doesn't like Harper.
Well, Harper's become an internet sensation, and all of a sudden Don's losing the narrative here.
Well, they're different narratives. Remember,
Seems like he liked it when he was an internet sensation the first
well,
time.
remember
It was
a lot of your audits. If you go onto YouTube and you watch what they do with audits, they are auditing government officials. What Tim did was not auditing a government official, but auditing the public and then the government officials who show up because the public reacts the way the public is used to react.
Well, and to make an argument for Tim, look what happened to our pal Rick Hubbard.
Yeah.
Just, he's not been charged with a crime. He got pepperballed. His guns were all taken.
No.
Very well, has never committed a crime in his life. He's 40.
Okay.
I don't think he has speeding tickets. And look at how the public reacted. So you could make the argument from Rick's situation, well, maybe Tim needs to do what Tim is doing in order to prevent what happened to Rick Hubbard,
Okay,
where
so
some
let me
scared
respond.
person
You remember,
calls the police and
David,
swats the guy.
David, just say, that day that we first announced that with Rick Hubbard, you're way back last spring.
Yeah, in April.
Okay, remember I said an incident identical to it happened in Oklahoma City? That was Tim Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the cops showed up, some lady complained, and the cop says, yeah, he has a legal right to do this.
Great, good for
And
Oklahoma
sent
City.
him on
Yeah.
his way. But again, Tim does himself well with his docile demeanor. He doesn't.
He's very articulate too.
He's just very easygoing,
Yeah.
you know.